This is Adam Lippe talking to you from the future, here to let you know that you can find Wait Wait Don't Kill Me available now. Check waitwaitdon'tkillme.com for more details.
This is
Eric and Gord. What if we're right?
Live right now.
Are you ready?
Find and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram.
Gord, you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. Sorry, I just sore throat a little bit because I just had an hour and a half meeting earlier, so on the phone. So
really?
Cough up, yeah.
Good times. All right, give me 2 seconds here, and I'm ready to go. Gord, introduce yourself.
Hey, how you doing, Adam?
Okay.
Excellent. Right on. Yeah, I'm taking full responsibility for the late list of this one today. I totally had everything planned out and then just stopped watching the clock. So yeah, I'm a dick. Oh,
is it up to me to disagree? I don't know you any at all.
No, you can just call me a dick. That's fine. Oh wow. So whereabouts are you?
I'm in Phoenixville, which is about 35 miles outside of Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, nice. I've been down to Philadelphia only once in my life, and it was for all but a brief moment. But I got yelled at 3 times while I was there, so it's a good place.
I mean, that's a pretty accurate assessment about what it's like.
I also got nailed for a wicked speeding ticket when I was going over through Buffalo to make my run down there. So, yeah, that was a fun time.
Yesterday.
What's that?
I'm not someone who's driven very long. I didn't get a license until I was 40. I'm 42.
Oh, wow.
And yesterday was the first time I'd ever driven to New York. I drove back there and back in one day. It's about 2.5 hours each way.
Yep.
And I when you're on the turnpike, you forget how fast you're going. And I looked up and I was doing 96, and I've never even come close to that. I kind of drive like an old person most of the time. So I was a bit startled.
I turned 40.
What's
Sorry,
that?
I turned 40. I turned 42 in June, and I've never officially had my license.
Yeah. Well, you guys live in cities? I mean, that's why I lived in a city my whole life. I grew up in New York and then moved to Columbus, Ohio. I lived in Boston and lived in Philadelphia, and until I moved out here, and my girlfriend's insistence that she's like, okay, you need to be able to drive in case I ever need to be taken to a hospital. And I said, "Is that?"
Yeah, my ex-wife did the same thing. I live in a fairly big city. Gord's just outside of Toronto.
Okay.
And I'm in Vancouver. It's 2.5 million people, roughly.
Well, I make no promises about not referencing Kids in the Hall.
Oh, absolutely. I would expect no less.
That sketch show was more influential on me than almost anything else.
They were the first, Lauren Michaels picked them up. And ended up producing them. I think they were probably more popular in the States than they were here, to be honest.
That makes sense. I actually worked at Broadway Video when I was a teenager as an intern.
Did you really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
When they pitched Brain Candy, the treatment was going around the office, and we all read it, and we were like, this seems terrible. And it was okay, I guess.
I wasn't a fan. I think I just didn't get it.
Well, it doesn't.
I was
really
a fan
work.
of the show.
Yeah, it doesn't work because it's sketch movies rarely do when they try to make a plot out of it. So little bits are funny here and there, but they don't get to show off what they can do. And then the stuff that anybody remembers is the stuff in really horrible taste, like Cancer Boy. So
yeah, of course.
Which I get.
They did a skit that never made it to air that I've always wanted to see, and it was a Dave Foley thing. They did a skit about Jesus and how he was actually a really bad carpenter, and that's why he got into.
I wrote a story based on that sketch in high school.
Really?
Yeah,
I never got to see it.
It's a great sketch. Yeah, about how he had no choice but to become the Messiah because he was a lousy carpenter. Because they show all carpenter work. It's a fantastic sketch. I wrote
a great concept.
Short story in high school based on that sketch, in which I literalized it, and it was about all of Jesus's terrible carpentry, and it being found
hilarious.
many years later, and the analysis of it.
That's so good.
Funny.
That.
I have been.
My class were like, "Where did that come from?" I'm like, "I just thought this sketch was really funny, and I thought, what if you just elaborated it?"
Yeah. Let's just take it to that next step that nobody thought would happen.
Yeah.
That's great.
When I was in high school drama class, every Monday we had to have like an original little short play, right? And mine was always just whatever Chris Farley had done the previous Saturday.
Okay, so you fell
I
on
just directly stole them. I was a huge Farley fan.
Did you fall on a lot of breakaway tables? Is that what you just did with your time?
I did that a lot. Yeah, I was almost his size in high school, so it worked well
Did
for
you
me.
like to adjust your pants while you were, weaving in and out like that?
I used to split the backs of my jackets on purpose, just to be like him.
Just so you
I
could
was
sing coat.
yeah, fat man in a little coat. I love that the last thing David Spade ever said to him was Chris Farley said, "Does this jacket make me look fat?" And he said, "No, your face does." Last words.
What a great last line.
So, how does this start, or did we already start?
You know what? I say let's just go with it. Why not? I usually do a little intro, but I really have nothing planned, and it's not that important. So how about we start with you introducing yourself? Because I'm sure my listeners, other than the very little I've told them, they're not too sure who you are.
Okay. My name is Adam Lippe. I'm a filmmaker who lives about 35 miles outside of Philadelphia. I made a horror comedy called Wait, Wait, Don't Kill Me about a viral pandemic horror comedy in inner city Philadelphia, where on the hottest day of the year, basically what happens is that the virus gets loose in the inner city Philadelphia. It takes place in Nicetown, which is a real place inside Philadelphia.
That's awesome.
It's a real place. It's the worst place to live in Philadelphia. It's unfortunately named. Oh. And the virus gets loose. It causes massive dehydration, but because it's the hottest day of the year, people can't tell the difference between someone who's infected and someone who's just sweating because it's hot out. So it causes dehydration. People start attacking each other because people are mostly water. One of the attacks is caught on a YouTube-like video, and the military comes in. The video goes viral. Military comes in to try to stop it. They realize they can't do it quickly enough, so they fence off the inner city to let everybody die. And it's about the people who are left there to die. And I know that sounds very grim, but it's actually a comedy.
I love it. It sounds fantastic. Now, is this just awesomely like serendipitous timing, or was it?
I wrote it a long time ago. And
I imagine so.
I wrote it back in 2013, and it took a long time to put together, and it was finished in the middle of late March of this year. And
and has the current scamdemic helped it or hurt it?
It's helped in terms of the offers, but distribution offers for independent films are always terrible. So it's just a matter of what is the least bad option. It's really just a series of terrible no options, because I don't know how much your audience wants to know about this, but so if you have an independent film that has no famous people in it, it means you are not getting any offers, no money up front, zero, ever.
Right.
And
does that also mean no festivals?
You can go to festivals, but they're generally a waste of time and money. They're there for the connections. The same reason you go to film school now. I went to film school. I wouldn't do it over, but basically you go to film school to meet people and network. Because there's nothing you can't learn by actually making a movie. The money you spend on film school would be much better off screwing up making your 3 shorts or 5 shorts or however many shorts, and 2 features or whatever. So
that's the same with comedy, to be honest. Like just for laughs, things like that.
It's a lot to fail at comedy.
Yeah. So this was just that's really funny. I've been meaning to ask because I haven't had anyone to ask. Are things like Netflix helping or hurting the independent film?
Well, so Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, they don't really pick up independent projects anymore. They make all their stuff in-house. So it doesn't really help. It's actually very exclusionary. And there's a lot of predatory places, things called aggregators. Now, what an aggregator
Correct.
does, and again, I might get too technical, and you might go, just move on. Really, nobody cares.
No, I love learning.
Okay. Well, I am a fountain of knowledge, even if it's mostly useless. So what an aggregator does is you pay an aggregator to get on a particular platform. It used to be you had to pay to get on Netflix and Hulu, but now they're not doing that anymore. But they'll charge you something like $1,500 to get on a platform, iTunes, whatever.
So is this like an influencer?
No, you actually pay to get on there. And then
okay.
whatever revenue you get from those platforms, which is not very much, goes through that aggregator. So they don't pick and
Right.
choose movies. You're paying them. You're paying for the service. You're paying them to create closed captions, or you create them on your own. You know, and then you have to market. You have to do all of it. Now, no matter what contract you sign, even if you have somebody picking you up, you're going to have to market it anyway. So
I have a similar distribution deal with my band. It must be the same thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know that they're similarly designed. It's just basically to make sure that you don't ever see a cent.
Yeah, I think so.
And to dissuade you from doing it independently ever again. There are limits to how much money you can make. That's why I think all these bands make money on tours, right? Because you can't make money from an actual record.
No, that's all your money's in merchandise now.
So,
Or YouTube. I don't know how they do that.
oh, the YouTube payouts are terrible, just like Spotify payouts.
Are they? Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
Hundredths of a penny.
Yeah,
Fuck.
I have had an album. I deal with a company out of Toronto called Indie Pool. They distribute my music and they take 10%. I think I've made $6 since 2017.
Oh, so like CD Baby, they do. I think they do that in the U.S.
Yeah, similar thing. Yeah.
Except for with
And so
Canadian
I-
distribution, it sucks.
Yeah.
You
Well,
have the advantage that in Canada you guys support the arts. So I know lots of Canadian filmmakers who didn't have to put their own money into their projects.
Mm.
that's true.
and
We
we do
a lot
have,
of grant money here.
yeah.
And you have to. You don't have that in the States. There's not like a ASCAP grant or something.
They have fiscal sponsorships, but one of them that I applied to, they told me my idea was too marketable. And in other words, we only know how to do things that lose money. But and
That's my
called
skill.
them and I said, so have you? You know, I don't understand this idea of this rejection that you're because my idea is too marketable. Because clearly it isn't if I'm coming to you. But you know, and they basically explained that they'd never. I said, well, what do you do? One of my questions kind of revealed all, which was, what do you do if the money that comes in, turns a profit? Like if it turns a profit, how do you split it? And they told me that had never happened, so they don't know. And this was a major state. I'm not going to say which state.
Fair enough.
But a very large one, and not Pennsylvania.
Well, I think if it's anything like here, where your next year's budget is based on how much you blow the year before,
Right.
So you don't want to turn a profit because then you actually get less in your next budget.
Well, the way that the fiscal sponsorships work is they're basically cover. So what they do is they say, okay, it's like any money you raise can go through our 501c3, and a 501c3 is basically like not a charity, but a nonprofit.
Right.
So you're raising money with that sort of as the centerpiece, that company or that foundation or whatever it is. And so the foundation allows you to raise money, and that money can be deducted off the person who get into their taxes. So they want to seem artistically relevant. They want it to seem like it's good for the community. So something that is theoretically disreputable or marketable, like my film, is a discredit in a way, if that makes sense.
Wow.
It does make sense. So let's get
Go
off
ahead.
the technical for a second. You're the same age as I am, and we're all in the same ballpark, right? Early 40s.
Yep.
What got you into film? What was your big? Like, I assume the 90s were monumentally changing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I was a film critic in high school. I initially wrote for myself. The school paper had some reviews written by a teacher, and the first movie review I read in there, I didn't understand it. It was written by one of the history teachers, but it was also for a movie called Shortcuts, which is a Robert Altman movie, very
Right.
depressing. But you know what high school kids don't understand? It's shortcuts. It would be the kind of movie that would be impenetrable for someone in high school, and it made no sense to me. So I said, hey, can I write some reviews? And they said, no, not unless you join the paper. And I said, okay, then I'll just write things on my own. So I started writing reviews on my own and putting them on top of the newspaper wherever got them, where people would pick them up. And the newspaper got very angry because mine were on top of theirs. And so we're taking my reviews more than they were taking the school paper, even though mine was just on regular paper that I printed out that day. And so they made me join the school paper and then kept trying to get me to not write reviews and then do other things. And I just had literally no interest. And I eventually in my senior year, got fired by the school paper for not wanting to write anything else.
That's hilarious. Has anyone mentioned that you actually look a lot like Jay Sherman?
I don't look like Jay Sherman, but from this angle, I might.
Just the angle. The critic, Gord, if you don't remember.
No, I know who Jay Sherman is. You referenced on what was it, Family Guy? I think where I know him from.
Oh, probably.
Memory serves me.
You should watch it. The TV show The Critic totally holds up. Still very funny.
Amazing. Yeah, it does. What's one big influence from that era that really stood out for you and made you want to pursue this?
The same influence in the 90s, and it was Pulp Fiction. That was one of the first. One of the first sort of like major papers I wrote was about the violence in Pulp Fiction. But, and then I made a movie in high school, and then went to film school in Boston, and then realized that I made movies but didn't really want to do it. I didn't like the process so much. I didn't like how exhausting editing was, and I didn't like having to walk on eggshells with actors. So when I graduated, I just went back to New York and got a regular job, and eventually would get magazine work and newspaper work when someone would read something I wrote on a forum and hire me to do it, to write reviews for them. But it was sporadic and it didn't pay very well. Yeah. And then eventually I started writing for a newspaper in Columbus, Ohio when I moved there, and then regularly doing it again, and then doing interviews and writing articles, and then starting my own website when I moved to Philadelphia, doing podcasts starting in like 2009 to 2012. Wow. I was in a commercial that never aired. They drove us across the country because I was voted one of the top 20 critics in America at the time.
Wow.
And holy shit.
They shot a commercial that was very bad, and they never aired. It was supposed to run before, like when during the commercials before the movies. It was a complicated, and they never aired mine, and I was fine with it. It flew us out to Denver to do it. It's a very odd story that I will not tell for legal reasons. We'll just say, because I have my theories about what was going on, and it's insidious, and it doesn't matter now because none of the companies exist except one of the players does still exist in a way, and he's I would if I told the story, it would sound like money laundering because it was.
Fair enough.
Did you see Face Off? Awesome.
You did, yes. Dreams. There's Mother, Crossing Delancey, there's Animal House.
7. I'm looking at 7. That's awesome.
That's the criterion of 7.
I was a huge fan of 7.
All right. Do I need to prove you that I own Rumble in the Bronx on Laserdisc, or do you believe me?
No,
I absolutely believe you.
Okay, I'll find it somewhere during this conversation, and then you'll go, "Oh my God, you weren't making that up."
Oh my God, no, I totally believe you. That's really cool. Not
making that up. Can you see that?
There it is.
Oh, very cool.
But if you get, I think the original cut before they dubbed it and brought it to the U.S. I can't remember if it's called Rumble in Hong Kong or whatever it's called, but it's a longer version that's I think still in English, but yeah, a couple of minutes longer. So maybe you're in that cut.
It's possible. It was all in Vancouver. That's all I.
Oh no, it's not that it was not shot in the Bronx. The mountains in the background are a big giveaway.
Yeah. The thing that baffled me was they spent like a week going through the streets where they were filming it, covering up all the graffiti with fake movie graffiti.
Oh, because it was a Canadian specific graffiti?
No, they just didn't. They thought they might be gang symbols or something, so they had to get rid of them. That was when I learned that everything in movies is fake.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, here's a lesson I tried to teach someone the other day. So there's an actress who's like, this was in a Facebook forum. She said, "I'm getting back into acting, and I want to know if on my auditions I have to cover up my tattoos. I've got them on my arms and blah blah blah." And she explained this whole thing, and all the actors were like, "You be you. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. If they don't accept you for you, then it's not going to matter." So I chimed in and pointed out several problems. First, your tattoos are someone else's art. In other words, they have to be licensed.
That's true.
Really?
Yes. So you have to get a release from the tattoo artist in order to show them in a movie. And that's an additional pain in the ass that everyone wants to avoid. So that's why you cover it with makeup. Second, the problem is if you're not putting in the effort to conceal your tattoos when you're auditioning, I can't really figure out what other problems you're going to create once you show up on set. So I'm probably going to be like, okay, this person's not worth it, because most actors, there is no distinguishing one or the other. Yes, there are good actors and bad actors, but most that you'll see are all about the same level. And people who get famous, it's just luck. Yes, there's showing up and skill, and there is talent, but it's mostly luck. I tried to explain.
Is there
go ahead.
Is there sorry, I can't remember his name now. The producer who makes all the girls, Pink's producer, and is there one of those for movies? Like kind of the Simon Cowell of motion pictures, who, well, I guess Weinstein, but not anymore.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, he was that guy. I answered my own question there. Is it that way? Like, how do I want to say this? I know in the 90s, indie films were gigantic and got a lot of attention. They got a lot of accolades. Are they not so much anymore, or is it just more underground than?
It's more that it's too easy to make a movie, so the product isn't worth anything. So
right.
What happens is anyone can pick up a camera. You can shoot a whole movie on a phone.
Exactly.
And I know you'd be like, you can shoot a movie on a phone. Steven Soderbergh has made 2 movies on a phone. One of them you can see on Netflix. The High Flying Bird, which is not bad. You can see that was shot on a phone, like an iPhone. Or what was the one about transsexuals? Tangerine. That was shot on an iPhone.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So
is there just mountains of crap out there now?
Yeah, there's no the notion that like things are better or worse. Oh, they were better when I was younger is always ridiculous, as you can imagine. Just like the music isn't any better, your taste just changed. There's just as much. The percentage of bad stuff is just as high, but it's so difficult to break through because there's too much product and there are too many streaming services, and it's too difficult to get anybody's attention. So
I honestly don't pay any attention whatsoever. Is it as good as it always was? Like, is there a David Mamet right now? Is there a
in terms of a playwright? I mean, that's who that's what David Mamet excelled at, as being a playwright initially.
Of course, but his movies are, in my opinion, some of the best ever made. Like State and Maine, I think, is one of the greatest movies on
Spartan
film.
is a great movie, but I don't know, if you don't know it, sitting right here, Spartan.
I actually don't know it.
That's a great movie with him. It's Val Kilmer, one of his best roles. I'm a big Val Kilmer fan.
Nice. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I think, is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, I'm iffy on that one. I think his role is Shane Black's poor attempt at apologizing for all his homophobia in his 80s scripts.
Fair enough.
Lethal Weapon, Last Boy Scout, especially Monster Squad, which piles on the homophobia for no particular reason when it's a kid's movie. And so Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, well, a charming movie, still has this character named Gay Paris, which is basically an excuse so they call him, Gay Perry,
Yeah.
It's just basically an excuse so they can make gay jokes and go, wait, I have the shield of this is a gay character and we're okay with a gay character, but I'm still making all the same gay jokes. Is it more sophisticated than, say, when the Boondock Saints does it? Yes, but that's not an excuse.
That's something. we just had a big LGBT rap guy on the show, And that's something that's bugged me for years, and I can't believe it still goes on, where the gay guy has to be funny. That's
right.
In sitcoms, in movies, the only way you have to either be ridiculously tragic or really, really funny. You can't just be a gay character.
In my film, I've got 5 gay characters, none of whom have to be funny. They're just people.
That's fantastic.
So when there was a streaming service that offered me a deal, and they said, and it was aimed at LGBT audiences, and they said they'd seen the movie supposedly, and they said, okay, can you describe to us what the gay storyline is? Well, there isn't a gay storyline. They're just gay characters in the movie. And so I vomited out about 850 words, and I said, you probably won't use any of this. But here are the gay characters, and here are what they do, and like they're just living their life, and this person is like this, and this person is this, you know. So it was, I mean, even the 2 villains are gay characters. They're just not out. They're, you know, I told the actors, hey, you're based on what if Roy Cohn and Joseph McCarthy were in a relationship. And they said, okay. And I said, imagine every scene that you have in the movie is a sex scene between the 2 of you, except you're never going to kiss. And all the jokes that you're doing about bananas, which they do, and every little gesture is basically a sex scene or innuendo or something. And they're like, got it. And they went with it. And so the scenes are very funny. They're much darker than they used to be before we actually had a viral pandemic. So when they start talking about quarantines and high death counts and how proud they are of that and how they're going to hide the high death count from the public, the scene plays a little differently than it did, say, I don't know, 5 months ago when it was just pretty dark.
No kidding. That's amazing to me that you did you hesitate to put it out, or were you because of the scamdemic, or are you did it excite you? How did you react to it?
No, it was a coincidence that I finished it the same week that I was quarantined.
That is very funny.
But yeah, I mean, did I have hesitation? A little bit, but it was like, you know, the guy who plays the villain's henchman, he said to me, "Oh my God, this is your movie. What's going on right now?" And he's right. But you still have to wait for it to be put out. I mean, you have all these options, but it's all these, as I said, like the series of no options where you're not going to make any money and no one is necessarily going to see it. It doesn't really matter how much energy I put. I could appear on every podcast in the world. Getting someone else's attention is the hard part. Getting someone to care or notice it for more than a handful of minutes is nearly impossible. I mean, your audience may not know this, but when you watch a movie on Amazon Prime, if I have a distributor or I put it up myself, the rate is the same. It's 1 cent an hour. So you watch my hour 42-minute movie, I will get less than 2 cents.
Wow.
I had a story published by Amazon. I had a short story published by Amazon last year, but it's strictly for Kindle, and I don't think I actually get paid or anything from it. But
oh, well, I'm sure there's like a transactional rate that you might get.
Probably. And it would be, again, the Spotify money, basically, which I think is 0.003 of a cent or something like that.
The transactional money, if you rent a movie on Amazon, is better. It's still 50-50. The best split is Vimeo, but nobody uses it. I think that split something like 85-15 in the filmmaker's favor, which we would all love to use. But since nobody goes there, nobody accidentally runs like on YouTube, you'll see clips on the side. That never accidentally happens on Vimeo. No one browses it just to do it.
I would like to, actually, because I use Magisto for a lot. I make a lot of little like 1 or 2 minute movies, and they automatically get put on Vimeo, but I never check them out there. I don't even know what it is, to be honest.
You've now proven the point.
Yeah.
We would love to be, Vimeo to be a viable platform, but it's not.
And I've probably got a dozen videos on there right now that I don't track. I don't know what they do.
Right.
It's funny. I know nothing about any of the industry, but even I've heard of Vimeo. I've actually heard of them. Never seen anything on it, but I've heard of them.
One of those. It's like TikTok. You hear about it, but nobody knows what it is.
I know it exists.
What's the state of the indie movie theater? Does that still exist?
It exists. I mean, look, right now, I don't know if we're going to get anyone going to an indie movie theater for another year and a half, because who wants to sit in a small room sharing the air just to see some movie that'll be on demand within 2 months? It's not it's not like a big budget thing that looks better in a theater. I mean, everything looks better in a theater, but do I need to see an intimate drama, in a theater? Is it worth, potentially getting very sick or losing my life? No, I can wait. So I live about 3 blocks from an independent theater, like a really good one. And I can't see that there's much future in it because the margins were already paper thin for independent films. And independent films don't make any money in theaters anyway.
No, they never really did, as far as I know.
And in these contracts when they say, oh, we'll play it in a theater, it's really a trick because they're gonna charge back all of the expenses. It's really a way to go through what's called cross collateralization, where they will take that revenue out of any revenue that you bring in from DVD, or which there's not much anymore, or a cable sale, or whatever. And the theatrical is a way they can claw money back away from you. So it's actually a bad idea for an independent.
Okay, fair. Good to know. I used to love going. I went to university in Calgary, Alberta, and there was a little theater. It just had 2 screens, and they strictly independent movies, and I just loved it. There was just something about the experience that kind of added to it. I saw a lot of great movies there, actually. That would have been like 2001 to 2005, sort of. They screened all of. Do you know One Car Why?
Yeah, sure. 2046. What's the one? I've seen a couple of those in the theater.
He's got Happy Together and Fallen Angels.
Yeah, Fallen Angels.
I saw them all they did a festival at this little indie theater, and I just fell in love with him. He's an amazing director.
Yeah,
I don't know if he still does stuff.
I'd have to look up. If I walk over to my computer and look up whether Wong Kar-wai has made a movie recently, will you guys get upset?
No, absolutely.
No, not at all.
I'm still
since 2046, so I don't know.
Yeah, you're one of maybe 3 people who's actually heard of him. So I can appreciate
I saw Chungking Express in the theater, Fallen Angels, and Happy Together.
Oh, Happy Together was amazing.
Yeah.
And those are ones I saw in the theater, and that's why they stick out in my mind. Things like that. Just from that sort of era, late 90s, early 2000s. Even like early 90s, I used to like...
His last movie in 2013 is an Ip Man movie. Okay.
I love the Ip Man movies.
So he made one
huge fan.
So, not within the Ip Man series, but I guess like not a spin-off, but about the same guy.
Yep.
Cool.
The closest I've ever seen to any independent film in TV or in theater was the Blair Witch Project.
That got 2,000, played on 2,000 screens.
Yeah.
Which would have been, if they never announced that it was fake, it would have been brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Their initial setup for that movie was genius. Like they set it up initially very well.
How do you promote it if it's with the actors, if it's not?
Yeah.
Well, they did it with Trailer Park Boys, though. The Trailer Park Boys pulled it off marvelously, where they were never out of character. Do you know Trailer Park Boys, the TV show?
Yeah, I never watched it, but yeah.
It's very, very funny. Probably one of the best things to ever come out of Canada. But they did it where it's like a fake reality show.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a deal where they never appeared in public out of character for like 4 years. And they made it seem like it just was real.
People thought it was real at first.
Oh, yeah.
This is a real trailer, but these fucking guys are crazy.
But it's got to be difficult, like for 4 years to never be out of character.
Like a Carl Pilkington situation, one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
Carl Pilkington is an idiot abroad. The foil for Gervais and Merchant.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Pretty much. Just way more crass.
That Corolla and Kimmel did. Perry Caravallo.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
Fuck, I forgot all about that one.
I'm a massive Corolla fan. and I had totally forgotten about that. I'm a big fan of Adam Carolla's podcast. He's one of the. I didn't know what a podcast was before I started this one, and he's one I discovered after that. But I quite enjoy it. I used to love him back on Loveline.
I tuned out of his podcast, I think, in 2012.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if I need to hear a rich white guy complaining about all his problems, I can find that anywhere.
That is true.
And if I want to hear him sound uneducated and repetitive while pretending to know everything, again, I can find that anywhere. I don't need
you can find that right here on Eric and Gord. What if we're right?
Right.
Every night of the week.
But I basically listen to his podcast quite frequently and then find myself going, hey, can you do like a modicum of research before you say completely ridiculous and uneducated things that make you sound like a moron?
Absolutely not. I mean, that takes all the fun out of it.
Exactly.
You can pretty much say that about anybody who's very biased in one way or another.
Well, no, but there's a sense of shame that I think is rewarding and helpful. And
yeah,
he does not appear to have any. Hence, he's moved on to that stage of his career where he's on the road as a grifter with Dennis Prager, and that's just very depressing.
True. That
he's not allowed to speak at colleges while he's speaking at colleges.
Yeah, I wonder about Prager. I don't think Prager is what he seems to be, but I have no proof of that.
Grifter or not a grifter? I mean, he's a grifter. That's what that is.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think he's a caricature. Sorry.
There are caricatures, and I think there is a level of sincerity. Like many years ago, I put up. It still might be available on my Twitter if your listeners want to find it. I put up the Mount Rushmore of disingenuity, and I had Bill O'Reilly, Ted Cruz, Andrew Breitbart, and Grover Norquist. Now, your listeners probably will know who some of those are. Grover Norquist is the guy who runs, I think it's Americans for Prosperity, but he's like one of the most. He's a very smart guy. All of these people I would name were very, and either alive or not, were very smart people, and they don't believe a word they're saying. And Prager is probably on the bubble. He would not be on the Mount Rushmore of disingenuity, but he would be close. So it's hard to know how much, if he's a grifter. And that, I mean, I'll give you that it's not always clear, but the difference between grifter and moron, that line is fading. So either you're so cynical that you're pretending to believe something, or you are that stupid. And what is the difference eventually? Honestly, like it's a fine line, and if you walk it, who are you trying to fool? Do you believe it? Is it worse that they don't believe it or that they do?
Yeah, it's true. It's a good question. I know I sometimes question myself, but I've very recently been introduced to the fact that I very much believe in me and what I'm doing with this show. I
didn't mean to shut down any conversation. I know you guys have.
You didn't.
Episode titles. Your thinking might be considerably more right wing than I am.
I'm kind of all over the map. I don't really have a wing. I go with what I believe is to right and true, and that's all I can do. It's neither left wing or right wing for the most part. It's just basically how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand any of the wings, so fuck them all. I just don't care.
I live by two rules that I express very much on the show. The first rule is stop lying. I think we could all be just 1,000 times better off than we are in the 21st century if everyone would just stop lying.
Well, then you've got to introduce shame, because the thing that prevents people from lying is shame.
True. I think it can be. You could do it without the shame, though. You can do it in a arrogant, pig-headed way, and just when it comes to like the environment, that's a big topic for Gordon and I. The elimination of oil. Is oil bad for the planet? Absolutely. It's terrible. Are we going to get rid of it anytime soon? Absolutely not. So why don't we just stop fighting, get together, and solve a problem?
Yeah.
Because the people on either side of these arguments, they're so convinced, like they're just so determined to prove the other side wrong. It doesn't matter that if they're right or not. The point is prove the other side wrong.
I don't think there's actually anyone on the other side of the oil argument except for the oil companies. It's just that the oil companies promote and try to pretend that they're the victims because that's how this works.
Stop lying. You're not. That's what I'm saying. They can just stop lying. We can all work together and just figure out a way to deal with it. I don't think global warming is going to be the be-all, end-all of us. I think we'll figure out warm. We've figured out a lot of worse things than warm.
Well, I don't know if fracking is necessarily the solution, considering what it seems to do to the areas, the water and the earth underground, and is it causing earthquakes and all that stuff. If that's the solution, I don't know if that's
That's definitely not the solution, but we could find. I think there's a middle ground. I think in all these big fights, there's a middle ground to be met, and if people would just stop lying, they'd get there.
But you got to remember, these companies have to sell you something, so they have to lie. That's all that is. It's always
very true.
I'm on your show to sell a product, right? I'm on your show to sell my movie. Now, am I going to lie about it and say something that's not in it? No. But I'm still, it's still puffery. It's still an example of an exaggeration. It's a rip-rollicking good time, blah, 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 blah,
But that's what I like. You're honest about why you're here. And that's I appreciate that. I wish more people could be that genuine. I think especially in politics, we need someone like that.
Yeah. You're not coming here to say that you're a massive fan of the show. You listen to every episode. You're a huge fanatic of that's why you came on. No, you're here to promote your product. And we're good with that.
I listen to one.
Yeah.
But it's probably more than most of your guests probably have listened to, though.
I would imagine so, yeah.
And you still came on, so I'm still saying this is a plus. So
we've had a lot of people listen to it and then decide against it.
Yeah, that's happened.
We just had
that happened to me recently. I was invited on a podcast, and I started. I like to listen to at least a few. And I've been on one where I was like, okay, this is going to be a challenge, and I'm going to get through this, and it'll be an experience of how to navigate either non-questions or bad questions. And I did okay. But there was a recent one that invited me on the show, on their show, and so I said, hey, let me get back to you. Can you link me to it? And I started listening, and it was a guy who was talking to his girlfriend on the show, and he kept calling everything retarded.
Oh wow.
And people retarded, and he called things retarded, and my girlfriend was in the background, and she said, "Are you going to appear on the show?" And I said, "Nope,
not doing that anymore."
Right,
a guy talking to his girlfriend. Was it the fake headline one?
What's that?
Was it the fake headlines podcast?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm obviously not going to name it.
No, I guess not. That's that happens to be a show where it's a husband and wife, and he's been known to use that word a lot too. Actually, so have I, so I can't really judge.
Right, but this was about 7 times inside of maybe 2 minutes near the beginning, and he was using it to try to show off to his girlfriend, and it was very weird.
Oh,
that sounds like Gord.
Yeah, it kind of does.
And it's a thing. So I have to consider this, though. So someone said to me, "Well, you should pitch your movie to conspiracy theorists," because part of the premise of the film is that they're picking on poor brown and black people because that's what you do. That this is a way to eliminate poverty. And someone
seems to be happening right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I maybe I was ahead of the curve on that one. But in the premise of the film is that they do that, and they know that nobody's going to care because they're poor brown and black people if they fence them off and let them die, because who's going to put up a stink necessarily? And it's deliberately, you hear the villains literally talk about, okay, well, that's what this area is. That's fine. But someone said to me, well, you can try to promote this movie to conspiracy theorists. And I said, is that an audience I should want to reach? Because the characters in the film do talk about a conspiracy theory because they get stranded in this basement and they get bored and they get frustrated and they're scared and they start talking about the predicament and they just drift into conspiracy theories as you might do if you were tired and scared. And someone said, well, why not? And I said, how do you pitch to that audience? And is that healthy? Like, I don't want my movie to be taken the wrong way, but it's sort of out in the open. Like, you can't control what audiences take to it.
So is it kind of I'm very excited to see it. I really, really am. Does it have kind of a Virginia Woolf feel to it? Is that the
more Virginia Woolf stuff was there were some much longer scenes where there was a lot more yelling. So there's less yelling, but there's less camaraderie than there used to be. The basement scenes were very there was a lot of them. It was probably 45 minutes of the movie, and now it's down to about half an hour, and the movie is better because of it, because it just stopped when we did that. There's less of it than there used to be. There's some good stuff that was cut, but it hurt the pacing too much.
I'm picturing in my mind like a mashup, sort of a Virginia Woolf and District 9 kind of mashup.
I think your closest bet, because the movie is so often goofy, is Shaun of the Dead, Dead Alive, or Brain Dead, the Peter Jackson movie, and The Crazies, either version.
So what happens for you? You're a film.
Paprika. Yeah.
Paprika.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, what was your question?
About that? No, I'm just babbling on about myself again. I tend to do that. So now you're a filmmaker. What's next for you? Do you have another project on the go, or is it?
You can shoot anything now, but I have a script that I want to shoot, but you can't get anyone in the same room. You can't you can't get anything insured. You can't.
Yeah, I guess so. I never thought of that.
It'll be a long time before I could shoot it. And then the concern is that it takes place basically in 2018, and do you have to acknowledge the coronavirus? Do you have to integrate the thing? Is it going to be like, how can you not talk about that? How can you not deal with this major issue? But the movie deals with other issues that were relevant then, but may seem quaint now. Who knows? So it's a sort of a mix of Oleana and Old Boy. It's about a guy who gets kidnapped by his ex's brother, who's going to punish him and puts him in a basement. And it's basically three characters in a room screaming at each other. But when I'm able to shoot it, I don't know. I mean, this is another one of those things where I was concerned about the wrong audience taking the wrong messages from it. But I guess, again, you can't control that.
Yeah.
You can't control how someone's going to read into it. And I guess the only thing you can hope for is anyone even to care? Like, can you muster up enough energy to make somebody care? I mean, when I was talking about this second script, they said, "Hey, why would you want to make that? What's your point?" And I said, "I like making people uncomfortable." And he said, "Is that a reason to make a movie?" And I said, "I guess it is for me."
Well, it should be, unless you're doing it like Cronenberg style or something, which is just. I genuinely like things that make people uncomfortable. I also really like unhappy endings. They're my favorite. Like Dancer in the Dark is probably my all-time favorite movie right now. It has been for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Just because it's so tragic and there's never a happy point. And I just love that about it.
Manipulative, because it's just a lot of it's the standard Lars von Trier. I'm going to make you feel bad about being the only audience who put up with me in the first place. Like all the von Trier movies after Breaking the Waves seem to be just basically, I'm going to punish the only middlebrow audience who likes these kind of movies by rubbing your nose in it and making you feel bad for this entertainment. Michael Haneke does the same thing. With Funny Games, that may be the ultimate in that, either version that you see. And I'm sort of amused by von Trier, what he does, in which he is so self-indulgent and so deliberately alienating. For what I can tell, it seems like almost parody, but is not supposed to be a joke.
Fair enough.
So,
sorry, Gord. I know you're sitting in silence there.
I've never heard of Dancer in the Dark, and I'm just looking it up.
It's
Bjork.
It stars Bjork.
Yeah,
and the soundtrack is Bjork and Tom York. It's amazing soundtrack. I actually had this. I heard the soundtrack before I saw the movie, and that made me want to see it. And I was glad I did.
You should watch Breaking the Waves. It's very similar. He made it about 4 years before. with Emily Watson.
I'm a big fan of the Downers. Roger Nygaard, he was the last film guy we had on here.
You know what's funny? I interviewed Roger Nygaard 10 years ago on my podcast.
Really?
Yeah, when he was promoting The Nature of Existence. Very good guy. I liked him a lot.
He's a great guy. Really fun guy to talk to. So sorry, I just babble on about my influences. What's let's see, where was I? I've lost it now. So I was asking about your next project. You can't do one. What do people do right now then? Is it just a hiatus for the entire industry?
Yeah, I mean, I have a regular job, so it doesn't change that. But yeah, that's how I financed the movie was the regular job. But yeah, I people are just sitting around. I mean, you know, the actors unions are waiting for the okay to go back to work, but they can't quite agree on how any of it would work. So you can't get close to anybody. And you know, what do you do if somebody gets infected? Are they fired? What do you do then?
Yeah, I guess. I'm. It's an 89% recovery rate. I think everybody should go back to work.
I mean, that's not a very good recovery rate.
No. On a totally different subject, I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
When back in the day, I guess the studio that took chances was Lionsgate. Is there one now that is willing to take chances anymore? Or is everything just going to be remakes and it's okay?
Yeah, they put out a great slate of movies pretty much every year. I mean, Neon picked up Parasite in the U.S., but they're kind of small. But A24 is basically the Miramax of now.
I see. I swore off movies years ago. I haven't watched a single one. The last new film I watched was 21 Jump Street.
Okay.
And then I was just done with the industry just because everything at the time was a remake or a sequel, and I couldn't deal with it. I think Karate.
Last year, A24 put out Uncut Gems, Waves, The Lighthouse, The Farewell, Midsommar, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Under the Silver Lake.
Wow. I've heard of
Climax, which is a Gaspar Noé film. Cool. 2018, Eighth Grade, which was great. Hereditary, also very good. First Reformed, Last Movie Star.
I don't know. None of those sound like a comic book movie.
Yep, none of them are. The Disaster Artist, Lady Bird, Killing of a Sacred Deer. Now that's a great filmmaker, the guy who made that. Yorgos Lanthimos, who made The Lobster and
The
Favorite, and the one I love, Dogtooth, about the family that can basically isolates their own kids, and so they just teach their kids alternate words for things so they can never experience the outside world.
Oh wow,
it's great.
What's it called? Dogface?
Dogtooth.
Dogtooth.
I love dark comedies, and that's one of the darkest.
Yeah, so do I.
So anytime anybody makes a phone call, they'll use alternate words, so they have no instinct to go to the outside world and experience any of it. It's great.
Very neat. What's one movie that's
The Lobster is? I also like that one a lot. You might have that with Colin Farrell.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I've heard great things for it, and I'm not a big Colin Farrell fan, but
he's playing kind of someone dumpy in it. I mean, the premise is that you are forced to find someone to fall in love with in this futuristic version of society, and if you do not fall in love with the person who you are assigned to within your group, then you will be turned into an animal of your choice.
Oh, very cool. Gordon, you can get in on this one. I want to know. I'm very curious for you too. What's one movie we could go all time? One movie that's just really disappointed you.
Oh wow. Oh man. There actually was American Ninja Part 2. That movie broke my heart.
With
I
Steve
was-
James
Fair
still
enough.
in that one, and he's the good part of those movies.
I was such a fanatic. I loved the first one so much, and I saw the second one, and I almost wept. I was just like, "Oh, this is just not what I wanted at all." I was really sad by the second one.
James is not in the third one, right? Is that when he dies?
Yeah.
He's the only thing I like in the first one. So, like the second one, doesn't it deliver exactly what the first one does, which is basically repeating it?
Yeah, and that's why. Like, I was just hoping for just something slightly different, but there was literally no difference. It was just watching the same movie just set on a slightly different backdrop. It was just I was so sad.
All those canon movies, that's where those ninja movies, American versions anyway, come from. Like Enter the Ninja,
Yeah.
and then the sequel was that Revenge of the Ninja, and then the one that everyone enjoys because it's ridiculous, Ninja 3: The Domination.
Yeah.
It's a mix of like Breakin' and The Exorcist and a ninja movie. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's stupid, but it's a lot of fun.
Very stupid. I actually spent the better part of 10 years trying to find American Ninja on DVD. It took forever. I couldn't get it on. This is like, I started searching before Amazon was a thing and just couldn't find it anywhere. And finally, once Amazon existed, I looked it up one day. I'm like, fuck, it's there. So I bought it, and the dumb thing was, do you want to know how much it cost me to buy it? Not on Blu-ray, on basic DVD, it cost me $44 fucking.
Yeah, I think it was in American, like Region 1 full frame, I think. For many years. And I think it was probably available overseas. Like, you never got like a region free player when that was a thing.
Yeah, no, I didn't have. No, mine was very specific for North America only. So,
I was early on the PAL and and Region 2 players because I knew there were so many movies.
I paid a ridiculous amount. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Really, I'm bad for that. I paid a ridiculous amount for SFW. I think it was about that much for the DVD just a few years ago, actually. Which I think, if no one's seen, it's the quintessential '90s movie. I think just
I saw it in the
points
theater.
out everything. Did you really?
Yeah, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in the theater. I have a list.
Really? You didn't? I thought it was hilarious. I just enjoyed it. What's one for you, Adam? Is there a movie that just
The most disappointing movie I've ever seen is probably Alien Resurrection.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Because that was made by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who made The City of Lost Children, which is one of my favorite movies, and he also made Amelie later, and he made Delicatessen, and Delicatessen and City of Lost Children are absolutely stunning movies, visually just extraordinary. If you haven't seen them, Ron Perlman is
Delicatessen.
Yeah, City of Lost Children is just it's a feast. I mean I don't like to use that word, but that's what it is. It's hard to explain. It's basically like this guy can't dream, so he starts kidnapping children and stealing their dreams. He's the circus performer played by Ron Perlman helps out this little girl to go try to unkidnap her brother who's been kidnapped by this monster who's stealing all the children.
Okay.
It's fantastical and absurd, and it's gorgeous and it's weird, and it's just like close-ups on faces of every strange thing that you can imagine. And so when I heard that he was being given $100 million and he was getting the same director of photography who shot City of Lost Children, who shot Seven, Darius Kanji, to shoot Alien Resurrection, I thought, well, this is going to look great. It's going to be weird. And all that happened is he put Ron Perlman in it, and he put the guy from Delicatessen and City of Lost Children in it, and totally interesting in it at all. And I think that was the most disappointed I've ever been in a movie at the time in terms of my anticipation. And I think I stopped anticipating movies after that, honestly, because it was like I can never feel as rejected as I feel here. And I didn't hate Alien 3. I've never really hated it. I know a lot of people do. I think it works okay in the longer cut, but
I like Alien 3. I didn't mind it. Peter Berg. Yeah, how do you hate anything with Peter Berg?
Peter Berg?
Is he not Alien 3?
No.
What
Alien
am I
3.
thinking of then? Doesn't matter. Who am I thinking of?
I don't know. I mean, Peter Berg's an actor.
Yeah. Is he not in Alien 3? Who's
No.
the guy I'm thinking of? He just died recently.
Pete Postlethwaite.
Oh, that might be it.
The guy who was in one of those Jurassic Park ones, and he's also Kobayashi in Usual Suspects.
Oh shit!
Oh,
that guy.
no, that's not the guy I'm thinking of. Is he dead too? That sucks.
Yes, he's dead.
I have no idea.
Colin?
When you talk about disappointing movies, there was one I was trying to think of, but I can't really say I was disappointed because I lost so much interest in the franchise. But Friday the 13th, was it Jason Lost in Space, or Jason Goes to Space? Was that
Jason X?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
X.
like one of the most pathetically stupid, boring, pointless, dumbest pieces of crap movies I've ever seen. But
I think you're right.
Still enjoyable because it's almost exactly, as soon as I saw him, thinking this is going to be the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen, and it didn't disappoint. So I can't say that I was disappointed.
Well, yeah, but
Fair enough.
that's the old cliche. Once they send the franchise to space,
Yeah,
they're kind of admitting that they've got nowhere to go. When they sent the Leprechaun to space, when they did Hellraiser in space, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. Okay, we've got nothing.
It's the horror franchise equivalent of jumping the shark. Is
yeah,
space.
that's exactly.
I mean,
it.
honestly, Leprechaun in space is the best of them. It's not even close how much better Leprechaun 4 is than the other ones.
I haven't
I don't-
seen. That's
I
the only
don't
Leprechaun movie I
see
haven't seen. I've seen all the others.
For me, it was My Sister's Keeper.
Back to the Hood.
Just because I was such a fan of the book.
My Sister's Keeper.
And yeah, I was a huge fan of the novel. And when you get to the end of the movie, you're just like, what the hell just happened? This is actually a decent movie up until the last 10 minutes. You're like, what? They just destroyed the novel has such a beautifully tragic ending, and the movie is just happy. It's like, no.
Where's the tragedy? What the hell?
And Cameron Diaz, she's consistently disappointed me for my entire life, basically.
I mean, what were you
I
expecting?
don't understand why she's. I was expecting the ending from the book. That's it. I would have even accepted her had they ended it the way the book ended, but that was heartbreaking for me.
Have you guys ever seen
I don't know
movie? Go ahead, Eric.
No, I just I don't know if either of you have read it or seen it, but
No.
it's really close to the book right up until the last 5 minutes.
I didn't actually catch what title you were talking about.
I don't want to
kinda got
spoil it
lost
for
in
people. Are you?
What movie were you talking about?
My Sister's Keeper.
Oh, My Sister's Keeper. Oh, okay. No, I didn't actually hear what you said.
Keeper.
Okay.
Phenomenal
big
Jodie Pickett novel.
I was a big fan of read the Stephen King novel, the Dark Half. Then they came out with that in the movie, and I gotta say that is one of the few times where I found the movie was really close to the book. They kept pretty much almost every major scene in, except for one, only because at the time I just don't think they could have delivered it with justice with what the special effects at the time. But I was blown away by that when I saw the movie, thinking, "Holy shit, they actually nailed it!" I was really happy with that. But,
That's rare for Stephen King movies.
Usually
there is a movie that was made of his that's way better than the book. Now they made a mediocre movie out of it, but it's a dreadful book. It's called Dolores Claiborne. I read the book in college.
I've never seen it.
And it's basically 400 pages about dust bunnies. And the movie with Jennifer Jason Leigh and Kathy Bates is just fine. It never gets better than just fine, but it is not a bore, and it is not 6 hours long, which is what if you did a straight adaptation of Dolores Claiborne would be.
Yeah, it would be. Oh, and you could say that with almost any Stephen King book to movie. They never seem to work. The only reason I give them a pass is because he signs off on all of them. They're not just...
Well, it's because he's got that policy for low-budget filmmakers. He's really cool about it. Like, if you are a low-budget filmmaker and you want to adapt his film, as long as it's not for profit, he will sell you the rights for $1.
That's very cool of him.
I did know
That's just
pretty cool.
He just wants to see, like, he wants to give people a chance. And as long as you're not actually selling it, he's like, here, use the material, do what you want to do. He's been doing it for many years.
Yeah. I got to ask just because I'm very curious. In the age of remakes, what's one remake that hasn't happened, Adam, that you feel should now? And of any, is there one?
Well, not really. I mean, there's no advantage to remaking anything. I mean, why not?
I would love to see an updated Dr. Zhivago.
Okay.
With Carrie Elwes in the lead role, I think would be amazing.
Here, I'll show you what you should remake. Can you see this? This Laserdisc here?
Theodore Rex?
Yeah. That's Whoopi Goldberg and an animatronic dinosaur.
I can't believe you have that.
On Laserdisc? Yeah, I've got a lot of terrible things on Laserdisc.
That's so good.
That's amazing.
That's the one that she was contractually obligated to appear in, and I'm not kidding.
Really? I see. That's it. Had to do it.
She was going to get sued if she didn't appear in it because they got the financing based on her name, and then she read the script and went, no. And then they were going to sue her, and because Kim Basinger had just been sued over boxing Helena, which I also have in a box set Laserdisc.
It's a limited edition. Nice.
Yeah.
Boxing Helena is one of those movies on the same as what's the one about the twins?
Dead Ringer.
Dead Ringer, yes.
Dead Ringer.
It's Dead Ringers is a great movie. Boxing Helena is really bad.
It's just basically around the same era
like Red Shoe Diaries kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, she did not. It's Jennifer Lynch's daughter. She did not pull it off at all. But it's a very odd kind of failure that I don't mind, but I would never show it to anyone and go, oh, you're going to love this.
I got something you'll enjoy. No, you don't.
Yeah, no. Theodore Rex was famous because Whoopi was terrified that she was going to get sued, so she does the movie, and right around the same time they start the movie with their animatronic dinosaur that farts all the time and knocks everything with tails. Jurassic Park comes out, and then it becomes pointless to make terrible animatronic immobile dinosaur movies. So it's a cop buddy movie with a dinosaur. And it's sat on the shelf for several years and then became like the most expensive direct-to-video movie ever at the time. So I own it on Laserdisc, not for great reasons, but because I just like having just odd things on Laserdisc.
That's a great one to have.
Here's a signed version of Leonard Part 6.
No.
Oh my God. I used to tell a terrible joke. I used to reference that in my comedy. I used to do stand-up years ago, and I used to always talk about Leonard 1 through 5.
Right.
And nobody ever got it.
And
it was a terrible joke.
Which one's that?
That's Clifford with Martin Short.
Clifford.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Martin Short. There's a guy that just... It's got to be a bitter pill to swallow when one of your characters is bigger than you were ever in your career.
What do you mean, Jiminy Glick or which one?
Yeah, Jiminy Glick is way bigger than Martin Short ever was. That's got to hurt him a little bit.
Not really in the U.S. It's just a character he played, no different than like Ed Grimley when she had a cartoon for.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. I guess if you're that kind of a... I would be bitter if, like, my character was bigger than myself. That would just bug me.
That just seems to be the way for a lot of, especially those artists that go there and get typecast by certain things because they do that one role so well, or it's written so well for them, and then they just every time they do something else, like, hey, do that character again. No, fuck off. I can.
No, that's
do more
what De Niro's made a life out of it.
That's true. De Niro has found his niche.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I can't. I'm not sure I can. Clifford or Leonard Part 6, but for what I've got on Laserdisc, it's like appalling. Those are some of the best worst.
I was always bitter about Laserdisc for years, simply because Pink Floyd released their Pulse concert video only on Laserdisc, was never released on DVD, Blu-ray, or anything else for many, many years, and I was so bitter because I went to that concert, and I was so bitter over the fact that it was only available on Laserdisc. I'm like, I'm not going to buy a goddamn player just so I can have this one, because they didn't have any interest in it otherwise. But I was so bitter about Laserdisc for years about it. But Thankfully, Pink Floyd got off their ass and finally released it on Blu-ray.
I mean, it sounds like you have important priorities.
I do, yeah. That's about the only one because, yeah, I love my movies and DVDs, and I'm a massive collector still to this day. I still collect them, even though I have a huge digital copy. But yeah, no, I love my movies.
Are you saying that you're jealous of my massive Laserdisc collection? Because
I am extremely jealous. I am beyond, because I've owned every music or video format. I had them all. I had Beta. I had VHS. I had. I briefly had a Laserdisc player, but I found out that the one I bought would not play anything. It wouldn't play anything in North America, so I guess it was a European Laserdisc player.
Oh, you had a PAL Laserdisc player, yeah.
Yeah, so I got this thing like yay, and I went to I bought like 3 Laserdiscs, and it wouldn't work, and so I got rid of all of it, and I was just really bitter about the whole thing and gave it all up. But yeah, I now have I've just
I know you
collection. I got quite the collection still.
I know you didn't want for this to drag out too long, and we've gone quite a while here. Are you still cool hanging out, or do you want to?
I mean, yeah. If you're going to keep going, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't want to interfere with your night.
Right, the dog keeps coming in because he wants me to go to bed, but
fair enough.
But it's okay because I keep the French doors closed, and that's my girlfriend can sleep, and that's okay. She does not come out and say, "Hey, shut up."
So we haven't talked about it enough. Where can people see? Wait, don't kill me. It
is not out yet, so I didn't know.
It's not out yet.
Yes, I didn't know whether you wanted me to say, "Hey, can you hold this until blank?" or I don't know how that works.
It's totally up to you if you'd prefer that. Sure.
Sure. I mean, that's okay because I don't know how much your listeners want to hear me discuss all the ways the distribution works more so than I discussed earlier because it's boring.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's so super detailed about how this stuff works.
That'll give me a chance to actually edit it together a little bit because I've been promoting the heck out of it. I've been really looking forward to the interview, and I know very little about the movie until tonight, but it just seemed like something I would like.
Oh, no, you won't. I don't think you'll enjoy it at all, honestly.
That's fair. You could be right. Who knows? I very rarely know what I like anymore.
The tagline is keep your expectations low.
That's how I feel about my life with everybody. Just everybody just assume I'm going to be a piece of shit.
That is most of my interactions in life is that I've kept my expectations very low, and I'll always be surprised if someone impresses me. It's a good policy.
It is because I live sort of the opposite way, and I have been let down by a ton of people that I've met who I had very high expectations of, and they turned out to be douches. One of my favorite comedic voice talents turned out to be a super douche, and it really wrecked my life back when I was doing stand-up. He knows it, and everybody knows it. I don't mind saying it's John Benjamin. Of Archer fame.
He also has a van.
He does.
He does.
That was a great show.
He also has a horrible attitude.
I met him once in the 90s, and I didn't experience that, but sure.
Oh, really? Okay. Maybe he just didn't like me. I don't know. That was a lifetime ago. Is there one of those in your life? I love hearing disappointing stories. Is there someone you kind of looked up to that let you down?
I mean, most celebrities are just people. I worked as a production assistant when I was in high school, and I met plenty of famous people. And then, as when I was a film critic, I'd meet certain people. But yeah, super famous people are very guarded.
Yeah. And
when I was a film critic, I would do interviews, and my style of interviewing was very confrontational. And I like people to be ill at ease almost immediately, and then get them, because they get asked. I would ask questions that no one would ever ask, and then just watch them try to deal with it, and then I can ask questions that I'm really curious about, like ask something like completely off kilter to start to either make them laugh or make them confounded, and then you see where the interview goes.
Fair enough.
You can't always get away with that, and there were plenty of times where it would go absolutely wrong, but I would just weather the storm because the experience amused me. It's probably a bad way to go about it, but So I can't.
No, that's is it kind of like Nardwar up here does?
Right. I mean, I don't have any like I interacted with a lot of comedians in New York in the '90s and the aughts, and some of them were mean and nasty, but nothing that sustained. I'm not going to go, Todd Barry was rude to me once. Yeah, but who cares?
Oh yeah, I know. Comedians are the worst. I don't know if people. I guess people must know that by now that comedians by nature are just horrible people who are not funny and usually miserable.
Yeah. I met John Mulaney before he was famous. He was doing a bit on stage, and in the middle of the bit, because we were in the back of a bar, the busboy stood up on the stage itself and walked right past him, and he got distracted and never went back to the bit. And then I ran into him about a week later, another comedy club outside. Again, he wasn't famous at this point. He wasn't writing for SNL or anything. And I approached him and I said, "Hey, how does that bit end?" And he's like, I said, "You don't need to tell me the joke. I'm just curious of how the bit ends." And then he was taken aback, and he did not appreciate, even though I think I was perfectly nice about it, because I was like, "Oh, I understand why you were distracted. Of course, I would be distracted too." And then I never heard him do the bit again, and I never heard. So I don't know how it ends. I remember essentially the concept, but I was curious where it was going. It was something about reading his girlfriend's email or something, and I never learned where it went. So I don't think he would do it now. So yeah, but other than, I don't have like stories of working on sets except someone was tired that day and they were rude. I mean, you put up with it. I mean, it doesn't. I think of it. There was a famous website in the aughts called the A List, and it would have like every Hollywood rumor about every actor. Yeah. And then it would have all this gossip in it. And most of the gossip were like waiters who were like writing in. Like, I served this person and they were rude. They're rude. Or, gay rumors or whatever. And they were called FODs or Friends of Dorothy.
Yeah.
And it was just nonsense. And it's the same thing. I'm like, okay, so you're going to characterize this whole person's life as being rude because, you didn't get a big enough tip, or you mistook how they looked at you, or they didn't look at you long enough, or they didn't respect your fawning over them as a waiter or something. I don't know that, you can characterize any interaction that way. You don't know if someone had a bad day. I mean, yeah, I don't judge it that way.
I find there's people. No, John Benjamin, by the way, was just sincerely rude to me for about an hour. But there's people who are just never like that. I find, and I just tend to respect them more. Mm-hmm. Larry Miller was a good example for me. I got to open for Larry Miller at a comedy show. Mm-hmm. He was hilarious, but just a really cool, humble guy. Seemed more excited to meet me than I was to meet him, and I just always love that about celebrities, especially someone of his stature. Yeah,
he still does one of the great bits, the 5 stages of drinking.
Yes.
Even I know that one.
I watched that maybe a year ago, and I'm like, this still holds up.
Yeah, he's one of the genuinely nicest people I've ever met in my life. And he actually sat in the audience for every other comic before he got up.
That's cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat of him. Gord, do you have a famous friend? You got the Iron Chef, buddy.
Yeah, my a buddy of mine went to high school with him, friends with. He's a chef, top-rated chef in Canada. Runs a restaurant in a town called Campbellville next to ours, and he was on Iron Chef Canada, and he went against I can't think of her name at this very moment because I actually can't stand the chick. But he went against this other Iron Chef, and I can't stand this chick, and he just fucking dominated her, made her look like a fool. And
I didn't know it was Iron Chef Canada. I thought it was the real one.
No, it's the Iron Chef Canada.
It's totally different.
Yeah, but still cool enough that a friend of mine got on TV. Like, I mean, he gets a lot of television stuff and spots for owning the restaurant, being a top-rated chef, but to see him on Iron Chef was a real treat for me, being such a fan of the show. So that was pretty awesome.
I got my one famous, and I don't even know if I've told you this, Gord. But I was actually really good friends with Adam Beach before he was anybody.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
We worked together at a restaurant in Calgary.
Oh, no way.
And then he went off he literally did that thing where he's like, I'm going to go to Hollywood and get famous. And we're all like, yeah, all right, see you in 6 weeks, loser.
And little did you know.
Shortly after that, Wind Talkers came out.
That's funny.
And
I thought he was in some stuff earlier than that.
Oh, he was. He was. I'm skipping quite a massive leap there, but he never spoke to us again. He never came back to see how the boys were doing or anything. But I guess he goes to Winnipeg quite a bit and visits them. So screw that guy.
That's funny. See, the only other person I ever knew that was any bit famous was when I was in high school. There was this girl who was the stunt double for the little girl in Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh, cool!
That was the closest. Yeah, that was something. Because I mean, the funny thing is she was like at the time she was I think 8 years older than the little girl, but she's such a tiny little thing. She looks like she could pass for a 10-year-old.
And that's a big tie-in for us because one of our biggest fans is the dude from that movie. What a prick I am! I don't remember his name.
No, you talk about him all the time. Come on, I'm gonna make you fucking.
I'm drawing a blank because I'm so tired. Oh my god! There he goes. Now he's not a fan anymore.
That's it.
Am I supposed to know this person offhand?
The redheaded dude from Adventures in Babysitting and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And
is it Keith or Anthony?
Oh, Keith Coogan.
Keith Coogan. Thank you.
Coogan.
My God. He was the first. He was the first celebrity fan of Eric and Gord. What if we're right?
Yeah.
Is that the dishes are done? That's him.
Yeah, the dishes are done, man. I don't. He's I get weirdly unfamous people who like me. Ashley Simpson, very famously, was a fan of this show. Briefly,
yeah.
We get the whole B team listening to us. I love it.
So I'm going to get a big boost, is what you're saying?
You're going to get a huge boost. We have a very small, very loyal audience, and we appreciate them. It fluctuates here and there. It's going to get bigger. We've got a movie coming out this summer. Not quite on your level, but
it's more like South Park before South Park was known level.
I'd like to say it's
primitive Spirit of Christmas stuff.
It's more of a kind of a Robot Chicken type deal. It's a little animated thing I'm doing about me and Gord in the future. We're robots. We're in a horrible car accident and we're made into robots, and nobody likes us. Basically,
this is enticing.
It is. Well, I could give you the full rundown, but I might have to cut it out of the show. What it is in the future, Amazon. There's no more soldiers in war. There's no humans involved in war. It's all drones. And Amazon makes a deal to hire the drones when they come back from war. Amazon promises to give them all jobs. Mm-hmm. And they're all these delivery drones for Amazon, and people just start getting pegged off. Humans are just dying left and right. They can't figure it out. Turns out all the AI drones have PTSD that they didn't know was happening. Mm-hmm. So to cover up their mistake, they frame Gord for blowing up the world.
How long is it? 5 minutes?
I'm pushing for 45.
Okay. And where are you going to put it out? YouTube? Vimeo? Vimeo. We already talked about it.
I think Vimeo might be the place to do it. There's a bunch of little 1-minute movies I've been making. They're horrible, bad little cartoon things. I've been making them for years, just based on me and Gord. And nobody watches them.
I do.
Me and Gordon, I think 3 12-year-old girls. They're really not funny, but I find them dreadfully hilarious. I don't even know where you can find them. I think they're on Facebook right now.
I'm pretty sure they're still on YouTube too, aren't they?
They could be. I love the idea of making a film. I'm constantly writing them. I'm no good at it. I have no talent. I can't act to save my life. But I really like the thought of me doing it.
Yeah, but it's not worth it.
No, but I think my projects are. Like, I'm currently working on a remake of Rocky 4 with me in every role.
Okay.
And that's just darn funny. Especially because I can't act. That's.
Are you going to play? Hold on. The most important role in that whole movie is the towel that he won't throw in. So you're going to play the towel.
That's
also?
true. That is true. I didn't think of that. I could play the towel.
And then the other most important person is the guy who cut all those montages together.
Oh yeah, of course. Did he not? No, it was. Would have been.
He directed that one, but
did he direct that one? I wasn't sure if he did or not.
It's been referred to on We Hate Movies, the We Hate Movies podcast, as feed up directing.
Oh, absolutely.
Which it absolutely is. Half the movie is made up of montages or footage from the previous movie, and it barely runs 85 minutes.
That's a great way to do it. And then,
I mean, it's a Full Moon Pictures way of making a movie, except on a big budget. Full Moon made all the Puppet Master movies, and a lot of things like that. And what a lot of the Puppet Master sequels will have huge chunks of footage from previous Puppet Master movies, and just to fill out the time, like there'll be like maybe 45 minutes to 55 minutes of sort of footage, and then 20 to 25 of padding, and then they get to their 80 minutes, and they're like, "We have a feature." What's weird about Rocky 4 is that it's that same mindset, except it's a big budget thing.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was. I think it was a big vanity piece for him.
Everything's a big vanity piece for him. He just wants to get crucified and be Jesus. I mean, that's the plot of every one of those things. Rambo, and it
works. I love Rocky. I didn't realize there's a new Rambo. I don't know how new it is.
Last year,
Last Blood. Rambo, yeah. Last Blood.
Yep.
Yeah, I just
discovered this, and neither did I. But I just got a free month of Amazon Prime, and it's on there, so I'll check it out.
I'm actually going to be watching that tonight. Just throwing that out there.
I understand.
Oh, good for you.
It's a good movie if you don't like Mexicans.
Oh,
well, who does? That's great. That should be the title. That should be the tagline. I love it.
Rambo hates Mexicans.
It's a great movie if you don't like Mexicans. That should be the tagline for every movie.
He's not wearing a red hat, but he might as well be.
I see.
Next thing you know, Trump will be promoting the crap out of this movie.
It already tanked. It's over. It's fine.
Hey, pretty soon, I think Mexicans are going to take over your country pretty soon.
How so? If they're not going to let them in, he's already shut down the border.
I've got a funny feeling he's not going to have much of a choice in the future. I see the American empire falling, and it's following suit in much the same way as every empire does, and he just seems to be failing a lot. And I think he's gonna take the country.
Let me just say, as someone who grew up around his kids and knew them, and lived in New York most of my early life, is failing is what he does. That's all he's ever done.
It's true.
Not paying people, being racist. That's what he was known for. Cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew. He was just a tabloid fixture. He was always a liar. None of this is a surprise to anyone who lived in New York. Zero.
They all knew him.
We were all aware of it. It is not a coincidence that he got like 6% of the vote in New York City, and all of it was in Staten Island.
Fair enough.
Exactly, 100% predictable. There is not a thing that he does that's like, oh, that's new. It's kind of like, okay, well, variations on the theme, because bankrupt, mobster shit, grifting. I mean, that's it. That's what we know.
That's what.
But low level, grifting. Look, you want a perfect encapsulation. I know you don't want to get political, but this is perfect because
I hate getting political.
Okay, but so you know that story about you know how his charity was shut down, right?
Yes.
Because they were stealing. Right. So, and the only time they'd ever give money were to his own projects, including they gave $8 to the Boy Scouts, right around the same time that his son became a Boy Scout, because that's the registration fee. So he grifted $8.
Wow.
A supposed billionaire grifted $8. And I mean, there's the famous articles in Spy magazine where they used to do this thing where they would send checks to people like celebrities to see who would cash it. And he was the only one besides was it Boutros Ghali to cash the check. It was like 12 cents.
Michael Moore did that, didn't he? Michael Moore did that too.
Was that
I think
was that one of his early articles? Was he writing for Spy?
Yeah, no. I think I'm not sure if he was, but I know for his first book, he had sent out a series of checks to see who would cash them from this like random organizations like pedophiles for gore and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So Spy magazine used to do that all the time just to figure out who was the cheapest celebrity, and so this whole thing is like, yeah, I mean, you voted for this. I don't know what you were expecting. Okay. Yeah, it's all going to collapse anytime anything bad happens. He's not going to take responsibility. He's going to run away. He's going to blame everybody else. That's what he's always done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we have the same thing going on up here.
You guys, do you know the helicopter story?
Which
no.
Okay, so in the late 80s, you can look up the news item, but in the late 80s, he was in the midst of bankrupting 3 casinos, which is, as you know, is really hard to do. But he was trying to he'd opened 2 casinos, and he wanted to open a 3rd casino in Atlantic City, and his people were saying, "Hey, that's a really dumb idea because you're just going to be competing against yourself," and he ignored that because that's exactly what happened. So he had Trump-branded helicopters everywhere. And the money he was hemorrhaging money. And his advisors who ran the various casinos were telling him, you can't stop taking money out of the businesses to pay off your bills. You can't do that. You can't do all this stuff. And so the guys who were running 2 of the casinos and like some of the other, there was 3 people on this helicopter that he had rented. It was not a Trump brand casino. It was a new helicopter, and that helicopter crashed, and they all died. And it was rumored. I'm not going to state that it's true. It was rumored that this was mob related because he owed a lot of money.
Wow.
Oh.
What he did was first he claimed that he was supposed to be on the helicopter. He was not. He was nowhere near it. Then he blamed the guy who was forced to replace him for the failure of his casinos, which was not true. And then he blamed the guys who died for the failure of his casinos, which is, of course, ludicrous because he was pulling money out of businesses. And then he sued the helicopter company for causing the bankruptcy of his businesses.
Wow.
That is brilliant.
We lost that suit because he loses most lawsuits. He spent the last 30 years claiming he was about to die in that helicopter crash, and like he was a genius because he didn't end up on it or something. But you can find the news articles about the helicopter crash, and then if you keep following along with the various news stories, you get anyone who's interviewed about it, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly who this guy was. I mean, I was talking to someone who heard the story, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we thought he had them killed," and I'm like, "It would make sense."
I just love how nonchalant people are about it. I think really people have just, in both of our countries, people have given up on politicians. That's how you end up with Trump and Trudeau. People just go, nah, fuck it, vote for Trump.
Yeah.
But Trudeau legacy thing, Trump is just like, here is a guy who has been screaming from the rooftops since the early 70s that he was a grifter.
Yeah, fair enough.
Roy Cohn was his lawyer. You don't do that if you're on the level. Yeah. He was a mob lawyer. it's not an accident that I based Roy Cohn. Like I wrote the movie before Trump was like a political thing, but he was one of the villains was always based on Roy Cohn because I find Roy Cohn utterly fascinating. Just one of the worst people who ever lived. I don't know if you know who that is, but
oh yeah, of course.
At least there's 2 documentaries out about him now. But he was Trump's lawyer in the racial discrimination case in the 70s when Trump and his father wouldn't rent to black people. So it was so openly racist that the Nixon administration sued them. Now,
wow,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. So whenever you hear, "Oh, he's not racist," you're just saying that because you're a Democrat. No. This has been going on for a long time. There's incident after incident that are very similar to this.
Imagine. I think it's very fair to call out the Democrats on their propagating racism, but
I'll give you 50 examples of him doing it before anybody knew who it was. It's not hard.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And I don't doubt it. I've known I thought the guy was a jackass since about the time he released his board game.
Would that have been late 80s, early 90s, something like that?
Yeah, late 80s, yeah. And I was baffled that first of all, I was baffled he stuck out the race for the whole thing. But I can't believe he got elected. That was just like it was kind of like that Eddie Murphy bit from Delirious where he's like, I fucking, holy shit, he won. They're voting for the guy because they never think he'd win.
Go get drunk.
I don't think he'd win either. The whole point was that he wanted more money in The Apprentice. He wasn't really trying to win.
Fair enough.
It was contract negotiation. I mean, it was, sort of subtle news, but that was the whole point. Was he wasn't getting paid enough, and he thought this would be a boost. And he learned from Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich ran for president in 2012 because it was basically cheap. It was basically cheaper than paying for a book tour. So he used the running for presidency to raise money to pay for his book tour.
That's a great idea, actually. So what happens? If he loses, does he leave quietly in November?
I don't think he I think what he does is he complains and says it's rigged, which he's already done. He did the last time anyway. Complains it's rigged, and then as soon as the military gets close enough to removing him, he pretends to take the high road and leaves, and then gets a weekly spot on Fox News where he complains about Joe Biden or whatever situation it is, and complains. And what he does, which is project all of his own failures on everybody else.
Yeah, I don't think it's Biden. I think they're pulling a rope-a-dope. I think the Democrats have a last-minute rope-a-dope up their sleeve, and they're going to pull Biden and put in a contender.
Why?
I really do.
Why bother? I mean, look, if this is going to continue, and Biden's up 20 points in October, why would you do anything?
Because they're not smart people.
I don't see Biden being up by 20 points in October.
If he's up 12 now, and this isn't going to get better. They just announced yesterday and today that they've got 55,000 new infections. Yesterday. Is
that what ruins his candidacy or his
because the economies can't reopen, because anytime Texas had to close all their bars again.
That's true.
And Florida's going to have to reclose, and and then all the old people who would vote for him are going to be dead.
Is Florida just? I love the way they've handled this. The whole time. Gord and I are big fans of both Texas and Florida. They're I've never been to Florida. I spent some time in Texas. I absolutely loved it. I'm just learning about Florida and how fantastic they are, and their response to COVID.
They're split up very strangely. It's like 35-45% complete redneck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe 15% old Jew, 10% old Cuban, and then there are upscale parts of it that are nice. And then there are parts that are just basically like you're living with Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. We had to do an episode about the amount of fecal matter leaking into the water there. And I was like, when you hear the numbers, you're like, no wonder they don't care about COVID. They're eating shit literally all day. It's gotta be just a terrible place to live.
I mean, are you being? I'm assuming you're being a little sarcastic about how they're handling it. They're not handling it well at all, but you know.
No, yeah,
No,
I
yeah.
think I
Total
think we should have.
sarcasm there.
we all did it wrong. To be honest, I think we should have went at it like chicken pox, and we'd all have had it and be done with it by now.
Oh, but it would have been much worse because have they been able to prove that you can't get reinfected?
No, well, they
no.
keep changing their mind on that.
Right.
But they have been able to prove there's an 89% recovery rate.
Again, it's a really bad number.
It's 98%. You always say 89. It's 98% recovery rate.
No, it's 89. The last I heard, it was 89%, which means 11% of the people actually die.
That's very bad.
It's really not. When you think about things that, in Canada, traffic accidents kill way more people than COVID has every single year. For some reason, those are acceptable deaths.
Traffic accidents in the U.S. are at 35,000. Gun deaths exceeded them a couple years ago.
Right.
So we're way past traffic accidents, I guess. Like
you are. You've got it. Yeah. You've got it pretty bad. But then again, you guys kill. I think the last count I heard was 1,800 Americans are killed by Americans every day. Is it or year? I forget what that number was. It was 1,800.
40,000 gun deaths in 2017. I don't remember what the 2018 numbers, but it exceeded for the first time. 1,800 deaths, murders a day. Is that what you're
somewhere in there? I forget the number. We were just talking about it. It's I'm pretty sure it was 1,800 murders a day.
Okay, if you say so. I don't know.
I could be wrong. I'd have to look it up again. But
that sounds like a lot, though.
Why is COVID scary? When everybody's shooting each other anyway, I don't see the.
I'll explain why. The media and the rest of the country only cares when rich old white people are affected. So when grandpa with money has no control over, he can't be shielded, by money because of an unknown disease that he doesn't understand, then everyone gets scared. Then something happens. I was talking with a friend who worked on my film, and he saw the Black Panther showing up with guns, and he said that makes me nervous. I don't really like that. And I said, but you got to understand, the NRA only cared about gun control when black people had guns. So the only way that anything changes is when rich white people get scared. So you want things to change, you have to scare all the rich white people. Why do you think the economy only shut down?
Absolutely.
Because of that. If this had only affected the poor, which is part of the point of my film, they never would have done anything.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's really, we're quarantining healthy people. That's never happened before. That makes no sense. And I think a lot of this, I call it the scamdemic because I genuinely believe it was nothing more than all of our governments getting us back under their control because we were laughing at them. And the whole dialogue for the entire, since December, the dialogue has been, if you don't do exactly as we tell you, you and your family will die. And it was a brilliant campaign for them.
I think the point was basically you got to keep everyone quarantined because otherwise you'll run out of ICU beds, and then lots of other people will die for other reasons. So if you just let it run wild, you're going to have the problem where your hospital's going to be overrun not just with coronavirus deaths, but all sorts of other people dying of other things, and there's nowhere to put them, and then you're just literally carting bodies out on the street. So it might have been.
I understand coming from being in New York, it's probably a little scarier because I understand it's been quite concentrated there and frightening for you guys. Well, I don't think in the rest of the world.
I was in New York yesterday, and it is everything seems very locked down, and everyone is terrified, and nobody knows exactly because everything's packed there. Nobody knows exactly what to do. It is much scarier there. I agree. Yeah. I live in the suburbs. It's not as bad, although we've got required masks. When I go to work, I've got to wear a mask when I get near anybody. But luckily, I'm not with more than a couple of people, so it's not a big deal.
That's another one that just blows my mind, but so I guess what was I saying now? I've kind of lost my point because of it. We were on Trump. I apologize. So we think Biden's gonna win, and I think Trump's got another 4 years.
I don't think he wants it. I mean, the only reason he does want it because the charges would be forthcoming.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Now you heard about the charges against Trump in Iran, right?
He needs the statutes of limitations to run out. No, it's the Southern District of New York. That's why he had that lawyer fired.
Right.
Recently.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, look, the best way to understand Trump was an article written by David Roth in two Caesar's articles. One was for Deadspin, the other was for I think Mother Jones. But the point he made is whatever political commentators and pundits and all that stuff, they make money trying to mystify the presidency and pretend it's so complicated and then there's 4D chess and all this other stuff. Whatever you think about Trump, whatever the simplest explanation it is, whatever the crassest explanation for why he's behaving, that's always correct. Whatever
that's fair
answer is, whatever looks like it would benefit him in the dumbest possible way, that's the answer. There's no reason to look for anything else because it's not correct. It never
I find
is.
that's the way with most politicians, and people tend to overcomplicate things.
We've never seen it so transparently with an $8 grifter.
No, yeah, that's the part that blows me away because I think of Americans as inherently intelligent people.
Yeah.
And I guess I am very wrong because I just can't see why everyone went along with it.
They hated Hillary Clinton that much. You're like, oh, she's a socialist. No, she's a middling right-wing Democrat. Basically, we've been having center-right Democrats for the last 35 years.
Yeah.
True.
Nobody like Bernie Sanders is going to get voted in because they're just going to go socialist. They're going to go whatever. Now, what I was nervous about, because I'm Jewish, I was very nervous that if Sanders beat Clinton and then he had to go against Trump, I was very worried about how the anti-Semitism was going to be pumped up in the South, especially. And
sure.
There was one saving grace is that didn't happen. I don't know if there's a saving grace that they just went full on misogynist, but whatever. I mean, you can't control, when you're going to just create things out of nothing. Because obviously all of the concerns that they had about her were projection. They didn't care about emails. They didn't care about Benghazi. They didn't care about any of that stuff. She just would have been run of the mill. That would have been it.
Yeah.
Is
there a chance for either her or Obama to make an appearance in the next 4 years in some capacity?
So I was listening to a podcast called Chapo Trap House, and they made a hell of a suggestion. It's a socialist Democrat podcast, very popular. And I've
heard of it actually.
They said one of the hosts said when Biden picks his vice president, he said if he picks Michelle Obama, the race is over.
Oh,
brilliant! Because there was no person more popular than her.
Yeah,
and if it would be over. What is the point? You have checked all the boxes. You have black woman who was popular. You were going to get 99% of the black vote, and white women are not going to go to Trump nearly at that rate, and you're just going to get the angry. What are they calling them now? Karens.
Yeah.
That's
Karens. Yeah. I hate that term.
I don't
know why it just bugs me.
It at least it's all encompassing. I don't know what the other option is.
Yeah.
I mean, what how do you sum up the nosy white woman who wants to feel aggrieved and wants
it means
life.
It means nothing to you, but up here I call them Whole Foods shoppers.
Whole Foods is like the Starbucks of grocery shopping.
It really is. It's a very elitist grocery store. It's the first one. They've got electric car. What are they? The plugs and all that. The charging station.
They got chargers in Manhattan like everywhere you go now. So even for just bikes.
Brilliant.
No, not here in Canada. They're hard to come by.
Well, so are roads.
Yeah, good ones anyway.
Yeah, in New York City, I noticed that yesterday. It was like bike racks that are just in front of buildings that you just can get and rent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Seems like
they're all over Vancouver, where I live. You can
same with Toronto.
Do they have them in Toronto?
Yeah, they got them in Toronto. Yeah.
I would have expected them all just to disappear.
No. Toronto,
I bet they don't have them in Oakville.
No, fuck Oakville. No. Oakville shit.
If I'm going to make a point about you had your Whole Food shoppers, a lot of it stems from the thing that white people have not ever been okay with, and whatever event, whatever thing, and it's a lot of white male grievance stuff where they're like, how come this advertisement isn't aimed at me? How come there are black people in the commercial? How come you're pandering? How come you're doing that? And the thought is always the same to me is, hey, it's not about you. It shouldn't be about you. Why do you think everything has to be about you?
Because it always has.
Well, it just has to be.
No, it doesn't. Why do you need that? Why is it threatening to you that something's not about you?
I think it's just threatening that. I think people don't want to admit their own, not obsolescence, but
obsolescence is fair.
And especially
people don't want to admit that they're not important, and individually people are not important, and they don't like
exactly
reminded of
so
that.
They latch on to things like the vaping thing. Smoking was bad, and they had told us we have to quit smoking. And then all of a sudden we did. We started quitting smoking in droves. We all started vaping, and then all of a sudden vaping was bad, and you got to quit vaping. Can't vape in public. I realized at that point it's not about our health. It's not about caring. It's about telling us what to do and what not to do. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a certain of smoking doesn't improve your health or anybody else's.
No, absolutely it doesn't. But they don't care. The Karens,
even
as you call them,
that could be argued, though. I mean, I know I've fucking calmed down from killing somebody strictly because I had a pack of cigarettes on me.
Fair
Well, no, I just mean I lived with someone for many years who had asthma, so we couldn't be around anyone with cigarettes. So
fair enough.
And plus,
I think everybody. The more I study people, and the more I realize everyone is just the couple from 6 Degrees of Separation.
Yeah, but
it's
that movie is, and that play is basically a parody of a white savior narrative. It's the sharpest white savior narrative satire I think I've ever seen.
Oh, it's amazing. I've never seen the play. I've only actually seen the film. I've read it, obviously, but I've never seen it done by anyone else. But Stockard Channing is
phenomenal. Yeah,
she's amazing in everything she's ever done.
Yeah. If you ever watched that audition she does for Lois Lane, she absolutely blows Christopher Reeve off the screen, and you're like, no wonder they didn't cast her. Would be a totally different. I think those rehearsal tapes must be on YouTube, or maybe they're on a DVD. But I watched them like, oh my god, is she good? And not would have left him in the dust. He was not a particularly strong actor, so he was more.
People just genuinely disappoint me in that way. Just a little off topic on that, but the only play I've seen done where it almost held up to the film was Glengarry Glen Ross. I saw a few years ago with what's his name?
The newer version, because in the original play, in college I wrote here you can see it. See, there's that copy, Glengarry Glen Ross. Can you see it?
Oh yeah, I can see. I saw it in 2012 with Eric McCormack.
Okay, I haven't seen that one, but the original version of the play, the Alec Baldwin scene from the movie, is not in there, and it's just the information is doled out, but there isn't a significant scene where someone comes in and explains the plot, because what is Alec Baldwin but exposition?
Yeah,
he's just giving you the backstory. So in the play, all that information comes out through the dialogue, and Mamet invented that scene for the movie. But I understand that later on, in later versions of the play, after the movie had come out and that scene was so famous, they then added that to the play.
Yeah, it was in the one I saw. It was the first time I had seen a play after a movie, was actually quite impressed with it. I was really impressed with Eric McCormack, because I'd never seen him do anything other than that sitcom.
Right.
So it was very, very cool.
And the movie he did about Laserdiscs called Free Enterprise.
Really?
I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
There's a lot of scenes that take place at a Laserdisc store. So I would call that a movie about Laserdiscs, but
Yeah.
no, it's really about
absolutely.
Trekkies.
Fair.
Shatner's in the movie playing a version of himself. It's not very good.
Well, it's got Shatner.
But your point about 6 Degrees Separation is interesting, because I've always thought of that as like a very strong satire of white guilt and about the need for white people to feel involved in Black lives in the most condescending way possible. And it's so sharp. I was surprised. I watched it again maybe a year ago, and I was so surprised how well it held up.
Yeah, it really does.
And
again, that's just a tribute to two phenomenal actors. And credit where credit's due. Will Smith is fantastic in it.
Yeah, I think he's less so. I don't. He famously wouldn't commit to the role that well because he wouldn't do the kiss, and so it's a very awkward cut. Because Denzel Washington told him not to do a gay kiss. And
fair enough. From the guy who went on to star in Philadelphia.
Same, yeah, but he's not playing he's playing a homophobic character in that movie, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But 6 Degrees Separation seems to understand that so that need, that combination of limousine liberal stuff and white guilt better than anything I can think of. Just insight. I mean, it's in the play. It's in the I think John Guar wrote that. It's as sharp as. I might have that play here too. I've got Rashomon.
Wow.
It's unfortunate though that I think a lot of people in both of our countries are that couple and don't realize it. And I'm not very optimistic for the next maybe 20 years, 30 years, unless there's some real change.
I mean, in what sense? What kind of change?
Total change in government.
Yeah. Now, when I speak change, I'm very radical in what I would like to see happen. I think both our political systems need to be scrapped. They're failures.
You can go modified socialist and go that way. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing right now by not just bailing out corporations, but we're bailing out the unemployed right now.
Which is ridiculous. I don't believe in bailouts. I think 2008 was a huge miss. We had a great opportunity. I think too big to fail that's a ridiculous concept. Of course, it's not true. Nothing should be too. We missed an opportunity to change the whole economic landscape forever, and we can't go back on it. We'll never get that opportunity again. But I would like to think that we could. I would like to see more regular citizens getting involved, more people voting for ordinary guys. I know it sounds way radical and idealistic, but it could work, and it could actually change things.
I guess it depends on where you want it, because every time there is a theoretical radical, there's huge pushback. Because the idea behind Trump was that, he's this radical, he's going to do wild things, and it just turned out to be, a kleptomaniac who just follows around whatever Republican policy is put in front of his face because he's not curious about reading anything.
Yeah, I think the party system has to be scrapped. I think the whole idea of like super PACs and bullshit lobbyists, it's got to go. And
that's why I have a scene in my film that is basically addressing that.
You make it a minimum wage job, first of all. You make government the lowest paid civil servants possible.
You outlaw lobbying.
Outlaw lobbying completely. Yep. There's no need for donations when it comes to running for the position because you've got the internet now. There's no need for you to fly in a fucking jet to go. You don't need that now. It's all, you can do anything you want to do right here, live, in any situation, for free.
Right.
So if you do a little research on the city of Vancouver, British Columbia, I ran for mayor in 2018 on this very idea. I wanted to prove to people that anybody can do it, and you can do it with no budget, and you can be moderately successful. I was 5th out of 17 candidates, which for a nobody.
You beat Gary Coleman, right?
I beat Gary Coleman. I wouldn't have had he run, but
You beat Angela.
Just the fact of the matter is, if we all did it, like I would like to see 2,000 people in the next election, just 2,000 names on the ballot. Get these.
Well, but you have the same problem because then it's just name recognition.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. But I think just the idea of, one vote doesn't matter drives me absolutely insane. Of course it does. Because there's 100,000 people. 100,000 people say that every election. Oh, my one vote doesn't matter. Yeah, but if you all just sat the other way, it would.
If they all voted for the same person, yes.
Okay, well, that person's got to be convincing or sell them their own version of a lie, right?
Exactly. So, this is the one thing that Eric and I have argued about for a long time. I don't think when it comes to voting, especially for a nation voting, one vote does not make a difference.
Well, in Canada, it doesn't because we've got a ridiculous system.
Well, that's a truth.
Where actually one vote doesn't matter.
How many parties?
We have technically unlimited, but there's 3 that
Viable.
Yeah, there's 3 viable ones, and they just bounce back and forth. But our riding system is absurd. Because we don't vote for our prime minister, we vote for our MP in our riding, who would be similar to your it's kind of almost like the ward system, but on a national level. We vote for our MPs, and the guy whose party got the most MPs, they then vote for who's going to be prime minister.
Okay.
We vote for the party, and then the party picks the prime minister. Now, they generally have a leader for the campaign, but he doesn't necessarily have to be the prime minister. They vote on that after their party wins. But it's based on this riding system that's absurd. And it's basically based on population. So Toronto is always going to win. Anyone in that area who's got you win Ontario, you're going to win just because they've got the most population in the country.
Yep.
But if 2 people in my riding vote for you, and 1 person in your riding votes for you, or 2 people vote against you and 1 votes for you, you still win because you've got more people. It makes no sense. And Trudeau promised, he ran on a platform of changing it, and then of course it worked for him, so he didn't.
Lying.
And that's
shit.
That's the problem. We've got our Trudeaus. Our Trudeaus are kind of a very weak version of a Canadian Kennedys. He ran on a legacy that really isn't his. And we do that. It doesn't matter which party you're voting for. You're voting for about the same dozen people. We have been for 30 years. Yeah. There's the key players, and they just bounce around from government to government, doing the same fucking thing and ignoring us in the meantime. It's become lost on everyone, the fact that they work for us and not the other way around. I just think we should take it back some.
I'm starting to get really worn down. I've been up since about 5.
I bet you guys are. Yeah, this is going on really long.
I drove about 5 hours yesterday.
Fair enough. And we're going way into something that we don't have to.
Right?
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Oh, nice. The whole time you guys have
awesome.
talked about that, I've actually never seen that movie.
Oh, you'd love it. It's great. I don't know if you would, actually.
And you know what? It has an extra relevance now because of the casting of Ian McKellen.
Yes, and I am a big fan of him.
Do you know why?
No.
I don't know why.
Okay, you remember in the movie or in the play, one of the premises is that Will Smith's character says that he's the son of Sidney Poitier, and that they're going to make a movie of Cats. And how this is the most ridiculous idea in the world, even though Sidney Poitier has committed to it, to making a movie of Cats, which at the time was indeed ludicrous. Now, one of the people he's pitching this idea to is Ian McKellen, who's in 6 Degrees of Separation, who's also in Cats.
That is amazing.
That's phenomenal.
I never put that together. That is brilliant.
And when I saw Casson, I'm like, didn't you get that the movie you were in is kind of parodying how stupid an idea that is?
He probably doesn't even remember.
No, that was so long ago.
So when can people see your movie?
Just that.
When can people come see? Wait. Don't kill me.
Well, how about I message you when it is available? I mean,
fair enough.
I don't, I can't give you a release date yet because I have not signed.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Because there's there's so many options in terms of if I go self-distribution and sign like 7 or 8 deals at once. I mean, how long is this podcast going to go? How long is the version you're going to run going to be?
Probably to the end of time, knowing me and Eric. We're pretty early.
Yeah,
we wouldn't give this up for nothing.
This episode, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking for 2 hours, right?
Yeah, I usually try not to trim them down too much. Well, it'll probably end up about an hour and a half. I like a 90-minute mark. I don't know why. It seems to be a good mark in my opinion.
It is. If you go too long, I don't understand listening to Joe Rogan for 4 hours. But if that's
no.
But I find us.
I got another interview
light years ahead
week.
Of Joe Rogan.
I was like, it'll be 3 hours, and I'm like, why? I mean,
yeah. Well, Gordon and I tend to cover a lot of information in our 3 hours. They're not all gold, I'll give you that. But that's true. I like 90. I don't know why 90 is a good number in my head, but I enjoy that. I don't see 3 hours of Joe Rogan being entertaining either, but I find us far funnier than him. So.
So when I know, how long can you hold this for? I mean, I guess I don't know.
I can hold this in. You can have total veto power. It'll come out when you say it does.
Okay, and then if I just, if you want me to record it'll be available and blah blah blah, and you can awkwardly edit that in.
Absolutely,
that would be excellent. I love awkwardly editing. I'm horrible for actually getting around to it. And if you ever get around to listening to the show, you'll hear about every 10 episodes.
I absolutely gave you about 45 minutes of my time.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. I'm not sure when, but the sound quality might not have been spectacular. I was homeless for the first year and a half that we did this.
Oh, okay. I
be podcasting from the streets.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was amazing.
Sound quality was not the issue. I think it was the content.
Could be.
There's definitely that.
It was recent. It was something. That's why I said that I got the idea that you guys might be considerably more right wing, because I couldn't tell whether the titles of the episodes were like parodies, the way that old David Cross albums would have the titles of the tracks be ridiculous parodies of what comedians would call something.
Yeah, they tend to be. It started with
attempting to trigger somebody in some way, and I thought, okay, I mean, it's something.
That's probably one of the best reviews we've ever had.
Yeah, I like that.
It's something.
The titles are really just very self-indulgent. That's just me making myself laugh.
It's my favorite part of the podcast.
Laughing at it, so you got that going for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
It usually comes off at just one comment throughout the we'll have a 2-hour show. And one comment we made, there's the title. There it is. Perfect.
I mean, I think that edict from Bill Murray and Caddyshack is very helpful. That's why I say it all the time. when he's interrogating the kid with talking about the Dalai Lama, when he's the caddying for the Dalai Lama, and he's like, what about a little cash for the effort? And he's like, I don't have a tip for you, but when you die, you will achieve total consciousness. And Bill Murray looks at the kid and goes, so I got that going for me.
That's so good.
Genius. Well, Adam, thanks very much for being on with us. It's been actually a really great conversation. I really enjoyed it and very much looking forward to the film. My sense of humor tends to be very different than what I enjoy watching is very different from what I speak about. We'll say that. It was really great talking to you. I look very much forward to your film.
Somewhere between somewhere in quality between Clifford and 6 Degrees Separation. That I can say.
There you go. Wow. I'll take that.
There we go.
Somewhere between Boxing Helena and I don't know House of Games. How about that for a minute?
There you go.
Oh, okay. I'll take that. I'm gonna be doing that until it comes out. It's somewhere between The World According to Garp and Cliffhanger.
I didn't have the money for Cliffhanger. I mean, I don't think Cliffhanger is even very good at what it's trying to do, but you know.
Oh no, it's
terrible.
who the hell did Lithgow owe money to? My God.
Well, I mean, you just chose two different Lithgow periods, basically. You know, World According to Garp and
I did.
Cliffhanger.
I did. See, I tried to sneak one past a guy who knows more than I do. It was a great Lithgow role and a shit Lithgow role.
Sure. I mean, he's over the top like he was in Raising Cain, or he's a little over the top in Blowout, but it's an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Maybe the best movie ever made in Philadelphia. Blowout, if you know that one.
Right. Yep. And is it true the Rocky statue came down?
Oh, did they take that down? I'm not really paying. I don't have the affinity for the statue stuff. I've always been like, look, I know the statue was put up, you know, someone paid for it. Like the way that people get stars.
Yeah,
on
of course. Yeah.
It's just paid for. Same thing with the Rocky statue, because the shame of it was always that like the fake guy gets a statue, but Joe Frazier doesn't get a statue. Like someone, a real actually deserving of it. And you're like, okay, well, the subtext is there. I get it. But
we could do a whole nother episode on that. I would love to actually. Because like, look at Frank Dukes. The real Frank Dukes got screwed.
Does Frank Dukes have a statue somewhere?
No, he doesn't. He just has.
Van Damme playing him.
Frank Dukes has nothing, and Van Damme got very famous off his story.
Well, Frank Dukes is for legal reasons, I won't use words here.
Fair enough.
He's an honest fellow. We'll just say it's probably the opposite of what I just said.
That's true. That is very true.
Hey, all the things
okay, guys.
aren't true.
I know it's late for you guys. I don't want to keep you any more than I have to. This has been a lot of fun, Adam. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you'll consider coming back and let us know how the film's doing when it's doing.
Okay, I will do that.
That would
be
awesome.
Thanks.
I will tack on some kind of an end to this, Gord. Do you want to do the usual?
Hope everybody dies.
Next time. I thought we were going to go a different way tonight.
No, just keep it to normal.
Until next time, everybody. Take care of each other.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.
Here's your Rumble in the Bronx Laserdisc, just as a cameo.
Nice.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh man.
Awesome. Gord, can I keep you for a minute?
Yeah, you can.
Hanging up, right?
All right.
Yeah. Adam, thank you very much.
Adam. Thanks very much, buddy.
Sure.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
This is Adam Lippe talking to you from the future, here to let you know that you can find Wait, Wait, Don't Kill Me available now. Check waitwaitdon'tkillme.com for more details.
Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged to obtain professional legal and medical services.